All right. I think we're at 72. Spectating and speculating. It's Thursday. Man, I keep putting my glasses on and taking them off, don't I? It's Thursday, the 17th of July. A very humid day, but overcast. I can live with that. A lot of birds out this morning. They're enjoying the feed and the new seed cake that we got out there. Saw a deer out the kitchen window while I was doing dishes, about 10 feet away. Apparently there's some honeysuckle left out there. They got all the apricots but 7. The 7 that I picked weren't quite ripe yet. That's why I picked them, because I knew as soon as these suckers go ripe, the deer are going to come and eat them up. Just like they used to do with the peach tree out there when it was alive. And today I wrote down remaining small. I've been kind of thinking around these 2 words quite a bit for years. You know, people talk about walking on a razor's edge. And there are so many ways that we can walk on a razor's edge. And because other people are really the only thing to be afraid of in this world, I've been living here for 25 years and I've never had any substantial intrusions from the natural world. Limbs down, yup. Heavy rains, yup. A tornado within a mile of us, yup, that happened too. More than occasional river flooding down near the river. But we've been spared from most things that people that live in, different locations. We haven't had to re-roof. We've had to put some patches up, new shingles here and there, but that wasn't even storm damage. That was just ice prying them up and making them able to get water through, so we had to go fix that, have it done. We have a continual ant problem, but of course we do. We live, we don't keep the whole property mowed down to a green 1/2 inch. Nature's very close to us. Foliage is very close to us. There's a forest behind my neighbor's house and mine that works its way pretty much all the way up and down the block for about 10 houses. And there's wildlife back there. And we like that, as I mentioned. And I can do all of this interacting with nature without going too far away from this porch and the house behind me and the backyard behind it. A small footprint. I hope that on this postage stamp of a property that we have, 1/2 acre, that over the course of my life, I leave something behind on it that's worth having left. As a monument to something. Not to me. I'm a mess. Always have been. And I'm not fixed yet, any more than you. But when it's all said and done, I think that remaining small is a spiritual imperative in just about every belief system. Think about that. And in mind, we're warned against pride. After all, pride is the beginning of the fall, and every other sin follows. You can't be prideful if you don't fear living amongst other people, or fear being small in the eyes of other people. As I've said in other videos, particularly my 5 small stones one about David, young David, you and God, me and God, anyone and God, wherever they are, is a majority. And to bring other people in is going to spread your attention, particularly if they're trying to get your attention, to places where maybe you ought not be putting it. I'm not a hermit. I don't avoid people. I've just stopped chasing them. I spent a lot of my life thinking that the greatest thing that could ever happen to me, and this is even after I got saved, the greatest thing that could happen to me is that I could be understood. And some people seem to go through little seasons of that happening for me. And so I would gravitate towards the person who seemed to understand me. It's a huge Achilles heel in me. Okay? And I can remember about 10, 12 years ago, after a long stretch of remaining small, kind of being local at most, I went back out through the music industry, small run, limited edition recordings of a couple of bands that I was in and a few people that I was associated with, and I knew I was stepping out of my comfort zone. But at that time I hadn't quite realized yet how much companionship mattered to me and why. And since then I've made a few messages like these where I sort of figure that out. And that it has to do with this very transient childhood with trauma in it that most folks don't outgrow. I know many men and women my age, right? 50 and above, who lost a parent at a young age, who suffered some kind of catastrophic injury or illness, who lost a sibling, who, had a really, really hard go, and found themselves seeking a community that would heal them, a community of people that would heal them. Do I believe that such communities exist? Yes, I do. Have I found one in this zip code since 2002? Nope, not once. When I went into a multitude, all I found was the multitude. Everywhere I went. It didn't matter what script they were running, which religious script they were running. It was the multitude offering tiny, tiny little sips of spiritual milk that kept you on the very wide path that you had just stepped into. And I always found myself choosing to go back and be small at home rather than do that there on any more Sundays. I felt cleaner away from that fellowship than I did in it, which is ironic, but very common. The human mind can't comprehend irony any longer if it is crowded out by, cultural idolatries and political mandates on our free will. We individually damn ourselves. We individually find salvation for ourselves within our belief systems. Anarchy is a choice. Chaos is a choice. Hatred is a choice. Lying and bearing false witness is a choice. All of these require planning. To covet, you must observe something in advance, which you then covet. Lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and the pride of life don't flourish when you stay home and leave your home when there's something that you've been called to do that comports with your belief system. And American Christianity does not comport with Scripture. It doesn't. And so I have fled from it as commanded. And those folks are very uncomfortable around me. This small person who's willing to be alone. And my wife is quite like that. One time, a woman that we think very highly of because she's just a wonderful soul. When my wife was teaching one or two of her kids in preschool, they had a private moment and they were talking. And the woman said to my wife, and my wife misunderstood it at the time. She said to her, "You seem like someone who doesn't need anybody." And as is the nature of some people, my wife took that as a criticism or an observation that was unkind. She didn't show it. She doesn't. She pulled it inside until later. But it was a compliment. To not need other people might mean that you and God are a majority in my eyes. I can see your faith. I can see your perseverance. I can see the fruit of the Holy Spirit, and it tells me you're not taking your marching orders from these adults in this system, but are being led by something more singular, more personal. And that was exactly true. It was a compliment. But we hadn't lived lives or been conditioned to hear it as a compliment in the context of a lot of criticism, right? Things get jumbled when things get chaotic. Oh, Lordy, it's getting pretty bright out right now. The sun's hitting the windshield of my truck and beaming right at me. Nice breeze today. Oh yeah, back to remaining small. So anyways, I went through a season of being in the music marketplace more than I feel comfortable with. And this, of course, is in hindsight, because during about that 5 or 6 year stretch, I had a lot of fun. I did. I was making a lot of graphics, album covers, inserts. I was all dialed in with my English teacher mind with spelling and liner notes and song titles and amusing elements of some of the groups that some of the things that we were doing. We actually collectively in this one band called Moonmen kind of built up a mythology about these 4 alien individuals that are the members of the band. That band had pseudonyms. And it was fun. We created the characters. We actually got rubber masks, full head masks of the 4 musical characters that we had created, and made videos and put out 4 full-length albums plus an EP. Got interviewed, lovely reviews from people all around the world, and with each of those 5 records that we made, we sold out. We made small runs of between, I think, 200 and 400 copies of each of those releases, where we retained entirely all of the creative control, as well as making decisions about various price points and so forth. Our CD albums were kind of elaborate. The first one we put out opened twice, trifold, printed on both sides, inserts. We made stickers. It was a bunch of guys that grew up reading comic books and watching science fiction movies, creating their own dream band with all of those elements. And we did great. We worked really hard. We put out some fantastic jazzy, experimental rock music with no singing, all instrumental, really pounding prog rock, some beautiful ballads, with really striking musical moments in them. It's a great canon of music. And when we think about a lot of bands that, we grew up listening to and stuff, some of, not the ones that ever had a top 40 hit, but other bands that were universally recognized as really quite cool. We put out 5 records, Moon Men. That's a pretty good sized canon of recorded work. And there was another band that I was in called Dirats that shared some of the members of Moon Men. And we put out 1 record and did another big hyper multifaceted marketing push with that. And Dirats even performed live in Baltimore. Moon Men the 4 of us were so far apart here in North America that playing live wasn't an option. But Dirats did play live. And a very small, concentrated group of people that had heard our music came and sold out the show at a really nice venue in Baltimore. We all got paid, and that was another record that sold out. And I think it even had a repressing and got into the ears of some interesting sort of celebrity people, such as the legendary prog drummer Robert Wyatt from Soft Machine and other groups, and the actor Lawrence Fishburne. Remember Cowboy Curtis on Pee-wee's Playhouse? He dug that Dirats record too. How cool is that? I mean, even to learn that these people had heard it and liked it. But that was how powerful of marketing we did. And it worked. Are any of us working together now? No. It was a season, and it developed some wonderful velocity and inertia, and some good records came out of it. But not friendships, really. In the most traditional sense of the word, friends are people who associate with one another with some kind of regularity, right? And when that stops happening, you realize that it was a working arrangement mostly, and that you were as close to those people as you may have been if you were a teacher at a certain school over a stretch of 5 or 6 years, how well you knew the faculty at that school while you were there, and collectively you guys were accomplishing, educating young minds. People came, people went, and then eventually you weren't there anymore. And that's kind of the way it goes in business. And that last dalliance with the music industry for me was a blessing and an education. And yet again, I decided to remain small and go back back into the funnel, as it were, the source, and that's my home, and my locality, and my region, and the only place where I can really do any good is where I am. You know, we've had so many occasions in our life where telephones and emails just created a beast. And that people sitting in the same room very often don't create the same kind of beast. The text beast. Keeping it small as a conversation between two people. And so for about the last 7 years, 5 to 7 years, my life has gotten, in terms of being in the multitude and on the wide path, it's gotten small again. And in so doing, other things got smaller. Things that were not helpful to me. Okay, as I've said in some of my other videos, I'm not a perfect person. Being saved didn't make me a perfect person. It just gave me right guidance from here on out, as I trip over my own stumbling blocks, scars, and history in pursuit of the face of God. It's encouraging that the Apostle Paul said more or less the same thing about himself. Earth isn't fun when we rely on other people in a large social space. I got off of Facebook. It was just too many people I didn't know sticking on me, right? And we weren't getting to know each other. It was the paradigm that had to be left. It isn't about unfriending or unfollowing. It's about, no, this restaurant is serving nasty food. You gotta leave the building. This church is serving nasty religion. You gotta leave the building. Get out of the box that you're in. The package. After getting back out of that business paradigm and back into the small business of living life in faith, the Lord carried me out of 50 years of alcoholism, functional alcoholism. I would think it's a pretty safe guess to say that probably 75% of adult America is struggling with functional alcoholism. Okay? It's just completely sanctioned in this country. And there are idolatries, scores of them, built around every single thing you can drink that will make you stupider. And God gave me the gift of extreme moderation. And here 3 years later, as my immediate family and neighbors can attest to, I don't drink like I used to. 2 beers max on any day, if I drink. When I drink at home with my wife on occasion, I have a beer. I have a wine cooler. And then I stop and continue drinking water for the rest of the night. I'm big on hydration. I used to be big on hydrating myself with beer. And so that's good, right? As I got back near the skinny end of the funnel, where not much can get in that end except basically you and Jesus, okay? Back in from the multitude. Look at the blessings of drinking less on your monthly budget. How about that? Look at the benefit of drinking less on your kids when they see that happen in you. Whether you have a wonderful relationship with your mother and father or not, you're going to be affected by their vices. You will definitely be affected by their vices. Okay? I've got a pack of smokes sitting here right next to me, and I'm about to light one. All of the adult men in my family when I was a kid smoked. I'm not blaming them. I can see why they like it. I do. You find a brand that you like as a smoker, you're going to keep smoking it. Just as sure as you're going to eat a free cheeseburger if someone hands it to you. Well, not everybody, but some people. And keep it small. Keep it real small. After COVID, everybody was just going crazy to be around other people, us included. And Washington, being an eternally stupid, said, oh, here, have a lot of money that you didn't used to have. It'll spur the economy. Well, it certainly spurred the economy of anywhere that sells alcohol. Or pharmaceuticals, for that matter. I'm sure the golf course was real happy about that spur. Okay. Company's just pulled up. I'm going to bail for now. Alright, this is a little bit... You can see that my arm has just been wearing out that thing right there, that sharp corner. And I'm going to make it like a Jazz Master or a Strat that's been sanded back. Oh yeah. I'm going to go ahead and sand that. And I'm sure that it'll just feel a lot better to have my forearm draped over that with that smoothed off a little bit. Remaining small, picking it back up. Wife popped in to drop off some stuff after the food bank. Working down at the food bank, she went to the store and dropped off some stuff, and now she's going to take care of some family business with some of our old folks that we care about. So, in the interim, I made us lunch, got some laundry in, gave the animals some attention, and sanded a 90-degree corner down to a curve where my forearm rests on my Telecaster guitar using a side grinder. And when I engage in some kind of an activity, a discrete activity. I try very hard not to be swayed too terribly by human expectation, but rather by practicality. And here's a guitar that I've been playing for 30 years and love. And suddenly I watch a man talking about old Fender guitars, and I see what they did with the Stratocaster and some of the Jazz Masters in terms of that location on the upper bout where your forearm rests, the fat part of the body of the guitar. You know, it's 90-degree angles, the side to the surface. And, you know, of course, it's the corner is smoothed off, but it's still going to put a dent in your arm when you lean on it. And I thought to myself, why in the world didn't I do this sooner? Okay. So I did it. Took a couple minutes. I'm going to get some sandpaper on it and you know, just kind of get it very nicely uniform there. And then I'm going to go ahead and rub some kind of finish into it right there to protect that wood again. And by tonight I'll be out in Reedsville playing that Telecaster, and I know it's not going to affect the tone, but I've learned that when I play sitting in a chair, it'll make a difference. So I got that done. Just a small thing. 5 minutes in the 33-year history of a guitar has solved a problem that lasted for decades. And I like people that tweak their instruments to get them right. Musical instruments, tools, and stuff. Stay small. Stay right inside your orbit. Get your own house in order. Don't brag. Share what you learn. Help other people get better at what they believe they like to do. And always remember that everything we do is going to concentrically move out from the action, including into the future. Like a pebble in a pond. One throw, one pebble, one splash, lots of concentric frequencies banging out from it until they reach the shore and bounce back. And if we think about the things we're doing in this world as having an impact on the whole world in that way, in ways we'll never know, it's probably best to remain pretty small. Don't make waves. Let God do the big stuff.